Welcome back to another episode of A Gift from Adversity. My name is Juri Love. I'm your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we are recording episode 154. Before I introduce my guest, I want to introduce my book, which is the same title as this podcast. It's called A Gift from Adversity, and then it's available on Amazon. And my name, Juri, Love, Love. You can search. And the subtitle of this book is called Overcoming Sexual Abuse, Domestic Violence, Bullying, and Homelessness. So when you have a chance, please go to Amazon and get some copies or copy, and hopefully you can learn more. I published this book, and after I published my book, I got a lot of messages from all over the world, people sharing their adversities. So I decided to create this podcast, and I'm very grateful to have continued wonderful guests from all over the world. And today we are having a guest from all the way from Vancouver, Canada. So let's invite him. Hi, Dallas. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Hi, Juri. I'm pleased to be here.
Wonderful. So can you please tell us your name, where you coming in from today, and then what you do, and if you have any social media or website that you want to promote?
Well, my name is Collis. I'm from the west coast of Canada on Vancouver Island. And what do? I try and help people get out of their story mind. And that's what we'll talk about today, because all our adversity is connected to our story. So, and my social media, well, you can't hide today. If you have my name, Dallas Collis, I can't get away from you. You're going to find me. And I always tell people it's just dallascollis@gmail.com is enough. Connect, talk. That's all it's about.
So all your social media handle is your name, DALLASCOLLIS.
Right.
All right. So it's one L or two L's?
Two L's.
Two L's. Got it. COL. And then how's Canada? How's the weather like?
It's a beautiful sunny day today. It's gorgeous. Went out for a walk about an hour ago. It's just beautiful.
Awesome. I have a Vancouver story. I went to play piano a long time ago with high school students because I was an exchange student in Burlington, Washington. And then we had choir trip to Victoria Island and then Vancouver. So we played at a mall and different places in Vancouver and Victoria Island. So that's my memory.
Nice. Yeah, it's beautiful out here.
I bet. So let's jump into our first question, which is the adversity. So can you tell our audience, what was your adversity?
Well, let's begin with this. You are a story. I am a story. Each of us is the makeup of everything that's happened in our life, our history. If I meet you, Juri, at a cocktail party, and I say, nice to meet you, Juri. Can you tell me something about yourself? And you will begin telling me your story. This is what we all do, because this is what we carry. We identify as our history, everything we've gone through in life. And like most people, our childhoods have some degree of trauma involved. Difficult situations that become emotional baggage that we carry with us in life. And that baggage can be very painful and a lot of suffering for many people. And for me, it was a lot of childhood bullying and abuse psychologically and physically. And you carry that pain for years. That pain got so bad, I turned to drugs and alcohol as medicine to not feel the pain. And all addiction is that defense against pain, against the real you inside that you don't want to be with because there is such pain and suffering. So this can get worse and worse over time, as it did for me. I entered a marriage with a woman who was in the same kind of pain and anger. And so we were both alcoholics and drug addicts together. Now, from the outside, we have a beautiful home. We have a business. We have cars, vacations, two beautiful children. We look like normal people. Under the roof of that house, there's a storm. There's a war going on. Two people who are incredibly immature, who are in the depths of that pain and that struggle in drugs and alcohol, trying to not be feeling. And a lot of people are in this place. And then I got lucky. I woke up one morning with cancer. This was the best day of my life. Over the next 12 months, I went through cancer treatment. My wife and I separated. I lost my house, my family, my business. I ended up 12 months to the day later, alone, broken, suicidal, and still alcoholic. That was the best year I've ever had in my life because it changed everything. You can get to a certain point where you either change or you don't. There is no other choice. It's black and white. So the adversity was 60 years of traveling with pain, building until this year of life collapse when everything falls apart. And I lost everything. Everything that I thought was me was gone. So that's the adversity.
Well, thank you so much for your vulnerability to share your adversity. But I want to know a little bit more. I want to dissect a little bit more. So I want to ask you, laid out a lot of things, but let's talk about bullying. When was the bullying and then why were you bullied? How?
Well, why? It's hard to know when it's early childhood, the actual whys. I mean, one of the reasons I've always come to is in the 1960s, living in this culture, having red hair, freckles, and a name like Dallas made me stand out. I stuck out like a sore thumb because everyone around me were normal looking and had normal names. They were David and Tom and Bill and John. No one was a weirdo like me. So that makes you a target. I was also someone who was very creative in my mind, but I would have been seen as ADHD and dyslexic today. Back then, there was no label. I was just a difficult kid. I couldn't pay attention. I couldn't pass a test. I was called stupid repeatedly by school teachers when I was young. And everywhere I went, in scouts, I was abused physically and bullied emotionally in scouts, church groups, school, all these things combined to bring out a child who knew or believed I was stupid. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. I was a failure. That's what gets imprinted in me as a child, and that's the baggage I carry forward, which of course limits your progress and your success in life because you're dragging this horrible anchor behind you of all this pain and worry and anxiety and fear. So that's the beginnings.
So would you say like elementary school, like middle school, like when, or like high school, like when did it stop?
Elementary school, very young. I literally got locked in the closet, which was the storage room at the back of the classroom. I would get locked in that closet in the dark, the whole class, because I was disruptive. And the teacher didn't know how to handle me. So they literally locked me in a closet. Or I had to go stand in the hallway, the whole class. And schoolmates would walk by and laugh at me, because I was stupid. I wasn't in the class. I got the strap 3 times in elementary school, a leather strap across your hands as punishment. So the whole elementary school scene to me was a horror, a complete terrorizing of myself. So I could only come out of that completely broken and hating school.
That is just horrible. And then how about your parents? Like, what did they do? Did you tell them?
Well, this is a funny and strange thing that I will never be able to fully understand because my parents are both gone now. But my parents are both school teachers. And you would think the system that is supposed to educate the child ends up abusing the child. And the parents are trying to help the child, but there's no real connection. And I think it was at a time where a whole society believed in just you have to measure up or you're punished. You measure up or you're left behind. There was no room for understanding and creating environments that will help a child catch up, as it were, or find the ways to manage and cope with their behavior. It was just sort of a you're in or you're out, you swim or you sink kind of attitude.
I'm very sorry. And then you mentioned it led to like alcoholism and then some addictions as well.
Yes.
Well, when did that happen?
Well, in your 20s, you just have fun, right? Drinking with friends and partying and going to clubs. It was just fun. But one of the things that I think the brain begins to associate when you have a lot of pain is that using that alcohol meant you didn't think about the pain. So it anesthetizes, it numbs you from feelings of pain, the suffering that you're carrying with you. And you begin to associate the two and go, gee, when I have a drink, I feel good. And I don't worry. And I'm not in any concern or pain inside. So that leads to more drink. And more just keeps building until the moment where, you don't know the moment until you don't want to have a drink, but you do anyway. There's addiction. Even when you say to yourself, oh, I'm not going to drink, and then you go and get a drink. Or you just start saying, oh, it's been a tough day, I think I'll have a drink. The drink suddenly becomes everything to mood alter, to change your mood, to make you feel better in the moment, to never deal with your true self, to always be at a distance from yourself. And that's what drugs and alcohol do until they become a dependency.
So this was all in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And then you said you met your wife
Mm-hmm.
who also kind of having the similar issue. So how,
Yeah.
when and how did you discover that she has similar things going on?
Well, you realize in a relationship, you're always attracted to someone who has a common feeling to you, who has common thoughts and feelings. And that is what attracts us to people. It can be purely physical at first. Oh, you look beautiful, I'm attracted. But as soon as we begin talking, we say we hit it off. Well, hitting it off is usually having connections, feelings that are shared, right? And so if my feelings are really not good feelings in myself, and I have a person who says they don't feel good in themselves, what we try and do, I think, is help each other. There's a sense of, I can be good for you, and you might be good for me. But what we're really doing is choosing the wrong person because it's a codependency that only supports us in our pain. That's why I see so many support groups online, in mental health groups and things. And I find so many of them are just supporting themselves in their pain. They're not really talking about how do I heal? How do I improve? How do I get better? They're more sitting there going, oh, I've got this wrong. I've got this wrong. And other people going, me too, me too. I think that happens in relationships. We did a me too. But over time, of course, the anger becomes turned at each other. And that's what happens because they're the person in front of you. we're rarely angry at the person we get mad at. It's usually just our anger looking for somewhere to go. And this relationship was two people with guns in their hands shooting each other constantly with terrible anger. And, just it's hard to talk about. It's years of being that abusive to each other, the things that we were abused with. And there you are hurting other people. And you're not trying to hurt someone else, you're trying to get it out of yourself. And the other person is just there. I think a lot of people who are traumatized, it's not that they were aimed at, they were just in the way. And they got someone else's trauma thrown at them. And they accept it and it becomes their pain. And that's where relationships fall apart and become this kind of battle.
And then you said from outside, it's like you had perfect household with like house and wife, and you said kids and dog too, maybe.
Yeah.
So I know it's not like you're hiding it, but you said it's inside. It was like a war. Like, how were you dealing with public, and how were you like really maybe try to disguise or whatever? Like, how are you surviving all this like kind of
Well,
versus
I think,
challenges?
in a way, we all do that. We all put on a mask. You're a performer. When you walk out on stage to do your performance, you put on a mask. You make sure you have the smile, the dress, the makeup. You are making a performance for an audience. Well, we all do that. When we go to work, we perform a certain way with people at work. When we're at a community group, we are a certain way. We present ourselves all the time. We ran a business. It was a restaurant. And so you have to present yourself in service to other people. So yes, we all perform in certain ways. How much are we hiding of our true selves? Well, we all hide some degree. When I made the example of you and I meeting at a cocktail party and me saying, tell me about yourself, you will tell me about a surface level of yourself. I'm a mother. I have children. I'm a performer. You'll tell me about your job. Very surface level social things. And that's a mask, a social mask of interaction between you and I. If I got to know you better, you would tell me deeper things about your story. And when we get to know each other very well, you may open up and tell me about your childhood. Tell me about things that may have happened to you as a child. Maybe worries and concerns that you have at the back of your mind. Insecurities that are part of your life, but you've learned to manage, whatever they are. And those are the layers, and we wear masks to defend each layer. And we don't always let people in. You'll hear people say, right? Really good friends, we let them close to us. People on the surface are just social arrangements. So that's what I mean by, from the outside, our marriage looked fine. With the home and the business and everything, we look like successful, normal people. And that's what we don't know about even our neighbors. We don't know what's really going on in that home. We don't really know about the relationship next door. And this often happens. You hear about people that you think you know, and they're getting a divorce, and you're shocked. Oh, I thought they were so wonderful. I can't believe that. Because even when you know someone, you don't necessarily really know the person.
Yeah, completely understood. So I know your kids maybe have witnessed some of this drama between you, but how so how it's related from bullying, and then maybe misdiagnosis and mistreatment at elementary school, and that kind of surfaced out for like the addiction part of it, and then that kind of attracted to similar people, and then it's affected to um, your life as well. And what would you say for the people who really never went through such a trauma, um, like how is your feeling like um, when you kind of knowingly like know like the cause of it, but then you have this addiction and the layers different things, like how is your mental stage, like say, do you feel bad or do you feel like this is it and this is the only time, only way I can overcome or numb myself? um was it more like self choice, self awareness, like no, what do you remember what was going on?
Well, there's so many parts to that. I don't think there's one thing, but I will tell you the simple story of addiction when I could admit out loud, I'm an alcoholic. I could say it easily. I know I'm an alcoholic. I know it's wrecking my life, but do I really? Because I'm continuing. So it's funny how we can almost pretend that we're acknowledging our own problem. And I could say it publicly. Someone would ask, I'd say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I lost my license this week. I've lost my car for 6 months. How could I not admit why that happened? But am I really admitting it to myself? No, of course not. Inside, I'll have some excuses going on or some rationalization. I can quit anytime. Oh, it's not a big deal. It doesn't control me. So you're playing a game, you're lying with yourself. So there's no one moment that really can that holds this and gives you the understanding of it. It's a series of so many moving parts that just become your life. And this became a life of a disaster, of a slow car wreck. That's why I say that year of life collapse is the best thing that ever happened to me, because it brought everything to the forefront at once. There was no hiding. There was no lying. It was right there, and your life was destroyed. So you had no choice but to face it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing the information, because a lot of times you are right. Like, you just when you are in the middle of addiction or middle of trauma or middle of storm that you don't even know, like, you're just trying to survive and you just even know,
Yes.
like, if you are actually like in a storm or a little bit outside, you have no idea unless you have like a completely different objective view, or maybe friends tell you. Because when you are in a middle of like tornado, and then is it like a little bit close, is it like really inside, but when you are like tossed around, and that's like what the addictions kind of feel like. I would say, like, unless you really admit, even people like tell you, hey, I think you have addiction to such and such, because
Right.
addiction comes with many different forms. So it doesn't
Yes.
have to be alcohol or drugs, but anything. But it could look like you're like to-do list or daily task, something you need to do to survive, um, unless you know really the cause and then yourself super awareness. But a lot of times you don't have that kind of awareness until maybe your close friends tells you, hey, I don't think it's right, but you just have to kind of go through it within, like the battle or like the voices, like, no, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing this today, but hey, like, this is fun, like, I should really have fun. So there's like I think it's always like two voices going on.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I mean, I was speaking to a Alcoholics Anonymous group just the other day and talking about the story of driving to the liquor store and the voice in my head going, don't go to the liquor store, and getting out of the car and the voice going, don't walk in there, and walking in there and the voice going, don't pick up that bottle. So you've got the voice saying, don't do this while you're doing it. It's this very strange, almost alien separation inside of you that there's like two people. There's one person going, don't do this, you're hurting yourself, stop it. And the other person ignoring and just going ahead. It's a very strange thing. And most people who aren't addicts can't understand that fight, that struggle that goes on inside of you, that struggle between the voices that make you sometimes think maybe you're crazy. And, what saved me was understanding this was a story, that my life was a story that brought me near to death because I believed the story of my life. One day after this year, I'd gotten through this year, I was listening to a podcast, and a man on the podcast said one line. He said, "Show me yesterday." That just blew me apart when I heard that line, because my whole life, as all our lives are based on our past, our history. If that past and history is a story I believed so much that it almost killed me, what is the meaning of that story? If it's only a belief, is it true? Is it real? You believed things 10 years ago that you don't believe today. And you will believe things in 10 years that you don't believe today. So how true is any belief? So when I examined my story, I realized I was living just by believing a story, and I didn't have to. And that changed my life completely, because I don't need to believe my past controls my present. I have to believe that for that to happen. I have to carry my trauma for it to be alive today. I have to replay memories that hurt me for them to hurt me today. I am responsible. So when you don't have to believe your story, you become free of it. And that's what I did. That's how I recovered my life, by not believing it.
Yeah, so that's gonna segue into our second questions. So let's let me ask. So you kind of mentioned a little bit prior, but I want to ask you, of all these challenges that you faced and all the adversities, what are the tools that you used to overcome and that actually worked?
Well, I have a theory now that there's a difference between thoughts and thinking. That thinking is what we proactively do to get up, to work, to look after our children, to have a job, and the tools and the techniques of living. We use thinking to make sure we get things done and we do things all day. But we have thoughts in our head, and thoughts just arise in our mind. We don't ask for them. Those thoughts are from what I call the story mind, from the story. And so we'll have a thought that says, "You're stupid." And in my mind, I will grab the thought and go, "Yeah, that's me." And then you spiral down negatively. And this is how we get in bad situations. So I began paying attention to my thoughts. And when that thought would arrive, I would ignore it. And as it turns out, those negative thoughts, if you do not attach yourself to them and take ownership of them, they do dissipate and just go away, like a cloud going by in the sky. And that began getting me stronger and stronger because I stayed awake. They say up to 70% of our day, we are in a sort of sleepwalking, habits and routines that we barely have to think about because we just know how to do them. Often eating is a problem for people, and it's often habitual eating. They don't think about their eating, they just do it. I have a sticky note on my fridge that says, "What's going into your mouth?" It's to wake me up and make me think about what I'm going to eat, not just eat out of habit. I have a sticky note on my TV. It says, "Get off your ass." It's telling me, you're sitting here doing nothing. You need to be active. You need to be involved. So it's little things like that. I began employing sticky notes all over the house that were there to keep me awake, keep me in attention right now in the moment, and not sort of sleepwalking and daydreaming through my life, which is what you normally do, which is why I would grab Doritos and just eat chips and sit there and watch YouTube, because I wasn't really paying attention to living. And this happens for all of us. And we have bad habits and bad routines because we just allow them to sweep us along in life. And so for me, I had to get out of that mindset and not pay attention to all the negativity and the pain, because you can't pay attention to it if you are paying attention now, right here. You know, you and I are here talking right now. And so our minds are not thinking about what might have happened yesterday or what might we have to do tomorrow. We're here, we're present, we're in the moment. The more we stay present, the less we can go to places that involve worries and fears or anxiety and problems that might happen tomorrow. When you stay put, right here paying attention, life becomes much easier and much happier because you're living in the moment. And most of us spend so much time in our memory and in our imagination for tomorrow, constantly back and forth. And those two places have all the problems we ever face. They are created in those two areas, what we imagine and what we remember. When we're here right now together, this is the only place we are. None of that stuff happens. So the great technique was to stay awake, stay here. Don't daydream off in these areas that cause so much trouble.
Well, thank you so much. It's very interesting, but like the sticky note, like the reminder is very interesting. But to be honest, like, sometimes when you have this, it's interesting that imagination, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, and then that kind of like makes the problem bigger than it should be. Like it becomes almost like a monster.
Yes.
But then, like, you said just anchor yourself in the present and just, the thought and stuff. But aside from the sticky note, like what are some techniques that people can maybe apply, like that you used?
Well, as I said, observing your thoughts is a really big one, because usually we just have thoughts fly through our mind. It's like this. Let's pretend I'm in thought, and this is what happens. Oh, I need to go to the bank today. Oh, there might be a big lineup. I don't want to go to the bank. Oh, I should have a shower. Oh, I need to do some laundry. Oh, I'm kind of hungry. I thought, I was going to go grocery shopping. I need to do something. Oh, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. That's thoughts just happening constantly. A stream, and they bounce us all over the place. And thinking is, I'm going to go to the bank. Okay, get your coat and go. It's just making a choice and doing it. That's using thinking. That's not having thoughts throw us everywhere. So one of the techniques I employed was trying to pay attention to thoughts, not the thinking, because thinking is fine. Everyone knows how to think. But not everyone can control those thoughts. And often we're led around by these thoughts and being pinballed and bounced everywhere. This thought, then that thought, then this one. We're all over the place. And that's the problem in life right there. So practicing. Oh, why did I have that thought? No, I'm not doing that. Disregarding thoughts, ignoring them, not putting yourself in them and making them a drama. Because that's what they do. They create the drama that anchors you in the past or the future, in pain or anxiety, because you're constantly in that sea. But it's simply we don't practice paying attention. We allow these things to happen. We just think it's normal. But we can practice being clear and attentive all the time. It takes practice. So I would do things. When I got up in the morning, I would stop myself from sitting down. I think sitting down is one of the most disastrous ways to start your day, because it anchors you in a comfort and a convenience that makes it hard to get things done and allows thoughts just to race around. So I would get up and make sure, first thing, I didn't care what it was, out the door for a 30-minute walk. Every day, that's the first thing I made myself do. Because it instantly centers you. It instantly says the discipline, the doing, the being right there and conscious is the way to start your day. Because I used to get up, make coffee, sit down, have my coffee and just daydream and think about my to-do list and think about what I need to get done or who I need to call. And this is the thoughts running around in your head. And this is where procrastination happens. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Well, I'll do that later. Oh, I'll do this. Oh, I'll do that. So the starting with a walk first thing every morning put myself in a much better energy, much better focus. And then when I came back home, it was next, do the next thing right now. I don't allow myself. In fact, in the beginning, I took my chair. I don't know if you have a chair, your favorite chair. Most people do. I had a chair that when I sat in that chair, it was like a magnet. I was stuck there. So I took that chair and put it in the garden shed. So when I woke up in the morning and walked out into the living room, there was a hole in the floor where my chair used to be. And that message was, don't sit down, go take that walk. Don't sit down, do that next job. That's the message. Because otherwise it was just easy to be comfortable and be in the thought process instead of thinking and doing.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your tools and your story today. So let's move on to our last question, which is the gift. So, Dallas, what would you say a gift that came from your adversity?
Juri, I call myself a 16-hour coach. And the reason is my, where am I here? I'm over here. Here's my latest book. It's called The Gift is the Present. My gift was a day. I realized I was living a life that was big and full of turmoil and the storms and all the problems. And to find myself was to find the day. And what I mean by that is, if a day is 24 hours long and you sleep 8 hours, you have 16 hours where you are conscious, awake, and doing your living. Your life is always one day. And so for me, I decided I compress my life. All I ever will have is one day. And so my gift is this day. I only have 16 hours to make my life good. So think about it. In 16 hours, could I take 30 minutes and go for a walk for the good of my body and mind? Yeah, I could probably do that. Over 16 hours, could I eat a little better and be a little more nutritionally responsible to my body? Yeah, I could do that. Can I not drink alcohol for one day? Yeah, I can do that. Could I phone a friend or family member and tell them I love them during one day? Yeah, I could do that. And pretty soon, these small bits and bites of my life all happen in one day. And I only ever have to live well one day. So the gift to me is understanding life happens right here in this day. And every day is another gift to do a better job, to live a better life, to love more, to laugh more, to enjoy the whole thing. And you only have to do it for one day. You don't make it a big, difficult thing about the future and the past. It's just right here, right now, today. So for me, that's the gift that I try and share with people is don't make it a big deal. Don't make it a big, complicated, hard life. It's right here today. Do the best you can with your kids. Do the best you can with your job. Do the best you can with yourself, with some self-love. That's all you have to do. Each day, right here, that's the gift.
Well, thank you very much. That was beautiful. So, my extra bonus question for you and the audience is, if anyone out there is listening to this episode of A Gift from Adversity and going through similar challenges that you went through, what would be your biggest advice for them?
Examine the story that you think is your life. Look into your past and look for the reality of it, because you don't have to let your story control you today. All those things that have happened in your past that you drag with you, they don't have to control your life. You can be present right here in the day, and none of that stuff will hurt you. That's always the message, that you have this power to overcome any adversity. Any adversity. We are much stronger than we think sometimes. When you get to the very bottom, you find amazing strength that you never knew you had. So you really believing in yourself is the place to be.
Well, thank you very much again for coming to A Gift from Adversity today. And I really appreciate you sharing your adversity and tools that you use to overcome and a gift that came from it.
Thank you, Juri. It's a pleasure being here.
And thank you to our audience for listening to another episode of A Gift from Adversity. It's available on Spotify and YouTube. And we have more guests coming in, so please look forward. And then if you're watching YouTube, please subscribe and like. Have a great night.